Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome in to the Maize and Blue Reviews. Good afternoon, Michigan football. Today, joined by former Wolverine Jim Scarcelli. There he is on the screen and in your ears. You're listening on the podcast. Scar, great to see you. What's going on?
Fired up, man. We're counting it down. I know the players can't wait to get out of camp. They want to get to game week, Denny. As a player, you want to get to where you start looking at, okay, ECU, whoever it is you're playing, tired of beating up on each other. So that's something players will be there soon. And I was just telling you before we got on here, I'm going Saturday to see St. Xavier play Detroit King. A lot of athletes on the field. Michigan's recruiting kids on both teams. Going to see my old buddy Eric Caddis. His kid plays for Xavier, and got some of my old buddies from back in the dinosaur days. We're going to go up and check out a game Saturday at King.
Yeah, I'm hoping to go to a game on Friday. So, yeah, that'll get you ready for September the 2nd. Once you go to a high school game, you hear all that and you see all that, that'll, we can sit around talking about how we're ready to go. But, getting into a little high school game, that'll get you going. And then you got week 0, too. You got a couple games on Saturday. So, we're here. We're ready. And that's what we've been waiting for. And, now it has arrived. As far as today, we will ask Jim Scarcelli what some of Michigan's goals will be for the opener against East Carolina. Scar last week talked about offenses that you don't want to necessarily face. This week, he'll talk about defenses that you don't necessarily want to face. We've got some film that we're going to go over. I like the film, but we're going to start with the big news of the week. I know this has been hammered, and it's got fans fired up, and it's that Harbaugh is out for the non-conference, a self-imposed suspension by Michigan, where he's not going to be there for the first 3 games. Scar, what was your feelings on Michigan taking this approach?
I think it's great that Ward and Jim, I don't know how if it was a collective effort to make this decision, but let's get a big chunk of this thing over and done with. Maybe the NCAA will be happy with it, because people are going to try to use it in recruiting against you, as long as it's hanging around. So let's get it over and done with. It's vastly, and I'm going to get into some of the reasons. In the case of Jim Harbaugh, it's really, really an overrated thing that he's out. If somebody told me, as a head coach of Michigan, would you rather miss practice and preparation all week or game day on Saturday? It's not even close. I want to be there in the preparation and the planning and the game plan and talk to my coaches, both sides of the ball, special teams. What are we going to do? Because the way Jim runs things, he doesn't call plays. He's part of the collaboration. So I talked about this. We're not missing a beat on offense, not a beat at all. He has guys that are, Michael Hart and Sharon Moore. Those guys are involved with the play calling, so we're not going to miss a beat there. And then defensively, nothing at all. He's not involved with the defense. Minner's got things handled there with Clinksdale. So, you got to meet with Danny, I was a position coach, a coordinator, the head coach. Okay, you meet with the referees before the game. You might talk, I remember he probably talks with recruits. So this would be Sharon Moore or somebody else's job to meet up with the recruits that are at the game. So that's talk to the TV people. It's minor stuff, and maybe Jim can talk to them on Friday if some of those kids are in there earlier. But, the not being able to talk to the recruits is one thing. But I just think it's really, really overrated. It's not going to hurt us, because I'm just putting myself as a player there again, and obviously, I love Coach Schembechler, but when you're running out of that tunnel, man, and you get on that field, you're thinking about your responsibility, your assignment, your alignment, your keys, your reads. Who do I block? Where do I line up in this formation? What's the deep? I'm just thinking about so many other things. It's that I'm not worried about what's going on with my head coach, especially as a defensive player. I just really want to bring that tone down, because it's gonna. I don't want to say it'd be a non-factor, but it wouldn't have been much of a factor for me. That's all I'm saying, as a guy who played defense.
Or yeah, and for me looking at it, if they were playing South Carolina or North Carolina, it might be a factor. You have the confidence with your head coach in the locker room, whatever he might say to you. That you can say that's a nothing or whatever. But if it was a game where there was a possibility where you think, hey, this could be a close game, that could be something if you didn't have your head man there. And then when they're out there with a game day operation, all the stuff that you talked about, it's good to emphasize. But if it was a big time opponent and Harbaugh wanted to override somebody and go for it on a fourth down from his own 40-yard line at a key part of the game, or he wanted to go for it down on the goal line, I think those could be important decisions in a close game. But you're not expecting these games to be close, and so I don't know if you need that big time over the top calm hand at the wheel that you would have with your head coach. I think everybody else should be able to fill in admirably.
Yeah, Denny, if I was not, and Sharon Moore's been with them long enough, I'm not. Again, let's just assume it's Sharon Moore for a minute that's going to call the plays. So let's assume he's going to make those decisions. I know my guys. If I was not there, my guys were with me a long time. They would know, what I would want to do in certain situations. We would obviously talk about it ahead of time. But I think those guys will make those decisions about long field goal, short field goal, go for it, punt it. I think a lot of their decisions will be based on what do I think Jim would do here, because that might be different as opposed to if they were a head coach. If I was the interim coordinator or interim head coach at Michigan, if I was like a Sharon, I would make my decision based on what I think Jim would want, not what I would want if I was a head coach somewhere else. That's just me.
Yeah. Now, Scar, I don't think it's going to. So there are good points about how this isn't going to affect Michigan in these first three games. And the best point there is you made, if you had the choice, whether you wouldn't want to be there on game day or a practice, you'd pick game day. I'd like to hear that. But from a fan's perspective, the fans are mad. Fans are mad because they feel like they've, admitted some guilt here. They look at some other teams and what they've done and how, they don't do it this way, or they're mad at the administration or something for Makar. There's all kinds of different things. I would say this, I understand being mad at the NCAA, but it boils down to this for me. People are mad at the NCAA and with the situation with Michigan because the NCAA hasn't been able to penalize teams for paying players to come to school. To me, that's where it's at. And that is a level 1 violation. All of these were level 2 violations. I think that's why Jim Harbaugh got mad, because he had to deal with it. I think it all has to do with the NCAA not being able to penalize teams that are paying players to come to school. Whether people agree with that or not, I'm just giving you my opinion on what it boils down to. Now, the people are upset with the NCAA. They feel like, well, they can't do this, so they shouldn't penalize anybody for anything. Okay, that's fine. You can be upset about that. Michigan shouldn't admit anything. Okay, you can say that too. But this is the route that they went. It feels like they're cooperating. What we've seen over the years, whether you like the NCAA or not, they like cooperation, and you want to minimize this situation as much as you can. And another thing, I'm not saying that the NCAA would find something if they go looking. But in the past, over the last, as long as I've been watching college football, or really in anything where you're getting some authority, or you don't want to give people a reason to go looking anywhere. You don't want people buzzing around looking at, you want to be compliant, and you don't want to have to. And I think all of this takes care of that. Now, I've said all that. And if at the end the NCAA sticks it to Michigan or puts another, then I will join everybody in being very upset. I think this is going to be done with in water under the bridge after the non-conference. I don't think it's going to affect Michigan football at all. And you're going to be ready to move on. Now that's what I think about it, Scar.
I'm right with you, Denny. People can be mad, and I understand that, but I'm just talking about what the plan is. And being mad is one thing. Just another thing about Jim, he's not a micromanager. So that's another advantage of him not being out. I watch him at practice. He doesn't micromanage guys. So pregame, I bet, and I am not in the locker room, okay, but every coach has different different take on what they say pregame. I bet you Jim allows assistant coaches to talk to the team before they come out of the tunnel. You know, Bo, you was the final word when I played, but there were assistants that said things prior to knowing that Bo was going to be the last word before we ran out of that tunnel. So I think that there'll be firm, motivating assistant coaches that'll step up, and the team doesn't need to be fired up to run out in front of 110, but they'll get it. They'll get that from somebody. So those are things that I just think that they'll be capable assistants stepping up to that last fired up talk position.
Now, I also understand fans, they want to be mad at somebody. And if it's not going to be the NCAA, and if it's not going to be Jim Harbaugh, they don't want to get mad at. I understand Jim Harbaugh is in a good position right now where he has Michigan football. You're going to be upset at the athletic director. And another thing in sports that I've seen, fans, they get upset like at the commissioners in sports. Everybody hates Roger Goodell. Oh, he's making $30 million a year. This guy does nothing. He's an empty suit. Gary Bettman in the NHL. They've said that for a million years. Rob Manfred, this guy doesn't even like baseball. He should be out there. And so any fan, what you do if you're not going to take your ire out and blast the NCAA, which people will do, you're going to go to Ward Manuel, and you're not going to oh, this is Ward Manuel's fault. That's a fan, and I think it's understandable that fans say that. That's part of the job if you're Ward Manuel. Believe me, Ward Manuel, lawyers, other people that, confidants that he was able to speak with, and Jim Harbaugh himself, this was a collaborative decision. So if you're mad at Ward Manuel, you're going to be mad at Jim Harbaugh. And also, you're just going to be mad at Michigan because Michigan has got their minds that came together and said, this is the best course of action. They didn't do it in 1 minute or 1 hour and 1 day. They had time to think about it. So things like this, like, I want Ward Manuel gone. I can't stand Ward Manuel. Agreeing with Ward Manuel wanting to be out. Ward Manuel, what you're saying is you want Jim Harbaugh, you want Ward Manuel, and you want the Michigan brass. You want everybody to be swept clean. No, you don't. Everything's going fine. This was the course of action to try to minimize distractions and get this over with. So that's a fan reaction, which is fine, and I think it's a popular one. NCAA, we hate them. And Ward Manuel is a joke and should be fired. Both of those things, I think I understand where people are coming from. But, I think Michigan is making the right choice here, even if you can't go in and say, I don't like admitting that we did anything wrong. I get it.
Yeah. Denny, we don't know. The president may have been involved, Ward and Jim. I don't know how they came up with this, but it is what it is. It's done. I will always, people might not like Ward, but you know what? He could have fired Jim before we won these 2 championships. So I know Ward. I haven't seen him since in a while, but I will always thank him for giving Jim one more crack at this thing because Jim finally got it right. And Ward was getting pressure. He could have canned him, after the Buckeyes hung 60 on us. So I'm not throwing old Ward under the bus.
Okay, here's Mark wants to know, what was Bo's last word in your last game? How about that?
Bo was short. In fact, I followed his philosophy. I was not a big speech guy. You do that on Thursday. You want to give a long talk. Bo was hard hitting, 30-second. You just boom. You don't give no long. They don't need a long speech. Before they're gonna run out and national television. All this 80,000 people. It was always the same, similar messages, man, about, just fighting and team and together. And, we're going to go through some stuff. We're going to believe in each other. Always the same, Danny, let me just say this since I got this. They show that video. In fact, that video that people show, the media has that one clip of Bo talking about the team. Okay, I was in the locker room when that video was taken. Okay. But let me tell you, anybody that played under Schembechler, we heard team every day come out of his mouth. Practice, team. You know, that was just, it was what we did, man. It was just how he talked every day, because people always want to make a big issue of that one little clip from some pregame speech that somebody recorded. But if you played in that era, I mean, I'm sure it's the same thing under Bo or Mo and Lloyd and, you know, Rich, all the, you know, team, man, was constantly the battle cry if you played for Schembechler.
I like it. We'll move on. We'll give the people the last word here. Here's JVB going all the way back to the Fab Five, to now name, image, and likeness, to the Harbaugh suspension. He doesn't like the U of M athletic administration. So I don't know. You didn't like that the Fab Five was, you know, getting hundreds of thousands of dollars paid to them. You think Michigan should be paying players to come to school, and you don't feel like they should have suspended Harbaugh. I understand that. Richard thinks Ward hasn't signed Harbaugh. It's very worrisome that he hasn't signed him to the new contract. Well, there's a line of thinking, Richard, that the contract was there and that Jim wanted to sign it, but because of the pending NCAA probe or investigation, or whatever you wanted to call it, that he was not going to be able to sign. So that is one of the things that we are going to see, is that now that Michigan has thrown themselves on the mercy of the NCAA and, you know, they feel like they've done what they can do, will Jim Harbaugh sign this extension? So, you know, Ward can't grab Harbaugh's hand and force him to sign it, but it is one of those things. There is a chance that this could happen.
Yeah, Denny, I just don't know how that relationship and those discussions, I'm sure I'm sure Ward is trying to stay out of there and just giving Jim the, hey, let's go. Let's focus on the season. Let's focus on your coaches and your players, and let's get this stuff done and over so we don't have to deal with it. You get ready, get 3-0 and get ready for Big Ten play.
Right.
Because, Danny, I got it in my notes here. I know when I was coaching, and when I was a head coach in high school, I was a defensive coordinator. So it's a whole bit different deal in high school. You don't have as many coaches, right? But, he's got an army. He's got an army of assistant coaches and coordinators and all these analysts and all these guys, and everybody's got responsibilities. And he just shows up and, it literally just makes a couple big key decisions. He can literally just stand there the whole game and just, are we punting? Or are we going? Are we kicking field? Those few decisions. So we're going to roll. It's going to be over and done. And let's move on.
I'm with you there. I get that. Not everybody in every position is there to be liked. So
that's it.
All right. Scar, the people are, we know this. I'm going to say that the people are looking forward to the opener. Duh. What are some of the goals as we sit here and you're thinking about? If I could just interject, the one thing that I want to see at the very top, I want to see everything. I just want to see Blake Corum look like he's 100%, look like he's bigger, stronger, and faster. Let him see him take some hits from the opponent. Let him see him get whatever it's going to be, double-digit carries. That is the number one thing. I'll say number two. After the win, that is the number one goal for me. What are some of those goals?
Danny, I'm going to focus on defense here today, but let me just tell you, as a guy who was a head coach, and I know them high school coaches, they're all kicking off tomorrow. You go through your scrimmage and you think you know your team, and you probably got some questions answered after your scrimmage, but there's no more of a stressful game for me as a former high school head coach than game one, because that's where you really, really find out about your players, that you think you have some answers to questions. So if I'm coaching Michigan, Blake Corum is the last guy I'm worried about. The returning starters, Danny, I ain't worried about. I know what they can do. I know what Keegan can do and Zinter. I ain't worried about those guys and Kojo and Corum. Hell no. I want them to just come out healthy, get as minimal, get them enough work, but get them coming out healthy. I want to see what my backups look like. I want to see what this center from, is going to blend in. I want to see what our offensive tackle situation looks like. Are these edge guys? I want to see, Isaiah Stewart, and I want to see these other linebackers and these, I want to see Wallace at corner. I ain't worried about Blake Corum. That's me. But Denny, let me just say this. I'm going to talk about what I want to see from Michigan's defense. Okay, I talked about our offense last week. Obviously, we want to win and we want to be healthy. Those are the two big goals I want. Those are team goals. But I want to see us stuff the hell out of their run game, totally dominate their run game, make them one-dimensional, and then have control of their pass game. Now, I've watched ECU. They're a very well coached offense. They're a spread, they're like playing Maryland, only with maybe, not as good of players. But they got the capability. They got a 4-star, highly recruited quarterback, big 6'5" kid. I'm going to show some film on him next week on ECU. But look, they're going to move the ball, okay? I want to keep them out of the end zone. I want to stuff them in the red zone. So stuff the run, control the pass. I want no big plays. I want to dominate the red zone. I'd like to see 4-man pressure, get pressure. I don't want to have to rush 5-6 against these guys. So I want to be able to do that. I'd like to see some turnovers. Okay. We want to force them to pass. Okay. I want to see a physical defense. If I'm coaching Michigan, I want to see a physical defense. And I don't want any mental mistakes. I don't want no mental mistake. That's the thing that with these young guys are going to be getting reps in front of 110 for the first time, Denny. Are they going to choke? How are they going to handle the pressure? Are they going to make the adjustments? When this guy goes in motion, this changes. With this changes. So we got to be really smart with adjustments, communication with coaches and players. And that's the thing I'm going to be looking at. And I know that that's important as a coach, is that first game. Is everybody where the hell they're supposed to be, regardless of how good we are? I told you, Denny, the most important thing in defense as a coach is adjusting properly. Okay, if they got 5 dudes over there, you better have 5 dudes over there. If they got 2 over there, you better have 2, not 6. And I'm going to show some film where, we made some people did some things against us where they were looking at what we were doing. And anyway, you got to adjust properly. And what else do I have here? But I want to come out. I would want to come out of that game if I'm coaching Michigan, knowing I got 25 guys that could start on that defense that I feel real comfortable with. So we're going to start 11 guys, and then we're going to rotate guys. And when I look at them backups that go in there next Saturday, I want to feel real confident about those backup guys. And then there'll probably be, again, 5 D linemen, 5 edge guys that we might see rotated in, and maybe more corners. So we might be up to like 25 guys that I would want to feel real comfortable with playing. Those would be my goals defensively.
I like it. I like ticking all those off. Last year, Michigan, I like seeing a defense, you say fly around and look fast. Last year, Michigan had 11 TFLs and 7 sacks against Colorado State. I'd like to see him get down. I'd like to see him look like they're going downhill. I also like to see him get 11 hats to the ball, all those kind of things, and swarming the opponent. But the overall speed is something that I'd like to see in an opener from the defense. And offensively, after seeing Blake Corum and just looking like he's the Blake Corum from last year, I would like to see JJ unleash some downfield passes and connect on those, and let's see some bombs. Let's see these guys look dangerous in a downfield passing game. That would be on my list of things. If I could just be greedy and say, hey, this is what I want. I want a fast, speedy defense, stingy, TFL, sacks. I want to see Corum look like he did last year, and I want to see JJ unleash a downfield passing game. They can run all they want, but at times throw some bombs, take the top off the defense, and get that crowd rolling.
Yeah, offensively, you're going to always take what they give you. You can't force things on offense. You can't say I'm going to run this. Hey, they again, I told you, if I'm coaching ECU's defense, I'm going to do everything I can to slow down there. I'm going to have to force them to try to throw. I can't let them just hand the freaking ball off. So I'm going to really do some things to try to stop their run game, Michigan's run game. That's what I would do, and hopefully, Denny, because they're so concerned about that, we can, throw the hell out of the ball. But Yeah, Danny, let me just say this. You talk about effort. I I don't see effort being an issue when we have playing football at Michigan and putting that winged helmet on. If you play defense, and that just comes with it, man, because they are not putting some guy on the field that isn't going to run and give 100% effort. With the amount of competition we have at every single position defensively, there is going to be nobody that goes on that field that's going to walk around, jog around, and give half-ass effort. So that ain't happening, Denny.
All right, I'll take your word for it. Staying with defense, last week you talked about offenses that you don't like seeing as a coach. What about defenses that will give teams problems? What are some of those hallmarks or spots that you're looking for, markings from a defense that you don't want?
Denny, I tried to put my list together, and I've beaten teams that lacked some of these things, but obviously you do not want, and you will look at Michigan, how they stack up with Scar's defense that he doesn't want to face. Number one, obviously great players, big, strong, fast, smart, tough. We have the physical talent, so you don't want to go against big, strong, fast dudes. Okay, we got that. Okay. Then you don't want to go against teams that play with great technique. Low, flat, Mason Graham, flat, low back. Am I going to be looking at Benny, low and flat? I'm looking because I've seen teams they don't play with great technique. They get knocked off the ball, their corners, or they don't tackle good. We are coached up. We use our hands well. We contain the court. We do things with great technique. And those things, that's a Michigan foundational word. You talk about team technique is a word that Michigan players hear all the time. We're going to be great technicians of how we play our position. Okay, that we're coordinated, that we execute, and that we know where the hell we're supposed to be. If we're playing 3 deep zone, then we got 3 guys deep. Somebody's not playing 2 deep. If we're playing man, then you better know who the hell you're covering. If I got to contain, I better contain. I'm not dropping in a flat. We have to be coordinated, and we got to adjust. So a team that adjusts to what a team does offensively. So I believe we're coordinated. We execute. We cover the right guys, and I think Mentor does a great job adjusting to what people are doing. And I look at our players. I talked about Manny Diaz all the time. I think we just totally had him confused. We had formations. They weren't lined up right. We had 5 guys over here. He had 3, and we're hammering them because they didn't adjust. So the great defensive coaches in court, they adjust, and we do that. Mentor does a real good job with that. And sometimes people do some things you haven't seen. I think TCU, we didn't do the best job. But obviously you want to play physical with great effort, and that's just fundamental thing. They're not getting on that field if they haven't proven they're that kind of guy, Denny. You got to prove that in practice and at scrimmages before they're going to put you out there in front of 110. That ain't happening. So physical and effort, I ain't worried about it because they're not even going to get on. They would have had to have proved that. And then, the many defenses do different things, but just be good at what you do. And I think Michigan, they have a belief system of what they do. Our defense is, look, we have a basic sound defense, but we are a multiple look. We don't just give you the same vanilla stuff, man. Jimmy Johnson ran that 4-3 at Miami years ago, and I heard, he was just a believer in really, really simple stuff. We do a lot of different things, man. We'll bring corners, we'll bring safeties, we bring linebackers. We play man zone. We do different things, so you really can't get a beat on you. And if you're going to do a lot of different stuff, that means you're asking a lot of your kids mentally, and we do a great job of doing a lot of stuff without the mental mistakes, Danny. So those are the defenses I don't want to face, and I in Michigan it hits all of them, man. We've been good the last 2 years in most games in all of the things that I have on my list.
I'm fired up. I'm ready for it. I like it. Do you want to speculate, Scar? Here's a question for you about speculation. I'll add to this. Scott wanting to know if Harbaugh is allowed to be at the Big House for the games he's suspended. I would guess no. You're suspended on game day. Could he be over at the football building? Possibly. That's not the football stadium. But what do you think Jim Harbaugh does? Does he just stay home and fire up the TV? And obviously, he would have a line to his coaches if he wanted to say anything, or a line to somebody that could communicate with the coaches. I don't think that he would be saying something during the game to the coaches. Maybe at halftime, he might, text over his thoughts or something, or, I don't know, FaceTime. What would you do, Scar?
That's interesting. I don't think I would guess that he would not be allowed on the premises, to meet with recruits, to be in the press box. I would guess that he's not going to be allowed to be around. Okay. But I sure as heck, if I was a head coach, can I call somebody at halftime? Can I call somebody in between the first and second quarter? I don't know. I would doubt it, but I would try to see if I could do that, for some input that I would want to give my assistants. But I would guess that he's not going to be allowed to be around there at all.
Yeah, it would be. I think that's that's going to be the toughest thing for him is watching the game, his team at home. I remember when during the pandemic, Saban, had a positive test, so he had to stay home, and they were, I don't know what it was, watching him. They were in his basement, he had his pool table and everything. They were like, what was that like? He said, it was very weird. He's like, and the guy was like, what kind of snacks and everything you had? And Saban was like, I didn't have any snacks. I'm not a snack. He was just like, I was watching the game, but you're so serious, on game day. No,
Benny, I'm guessing Jim will be bunkered in. Probably, I bet he's going to watch it by himself with his DVR, and he's going to get a heads up. He'll get a start on analyzing the game. That's what I would do. If I couldn't talk to nobody and I could just simply watch it on TV, I would have nobody around me, and I would be watching it, and I'd be rewinding and just getting a head start on my film breakdown. And I would hope like heck I could talk to somebody at halftime, but I don't know. But that's what I would be doing, is I would start getting a jump on the film breakdown.
Yeah, and I don't know, like, is he getting – it would be interesting to hear Harbaugh. I don't even know, like, on Monday, does he allow whoever is the head coach to talk about the game, or is he going to be up there on Monday because the first 10 questions will be, like, kind of this nature. Hey, Jim.
Yeah, no, he'll be there Monday. He's only suspended on game day, so he'll.
No, that's right. But he could let the coaches kind of go through the thing, or the first 10 questions are going to be, "Hey, what did you do?"
Danny, I've been to the he lets coaches talk. I've been to those practices. He is not the system. He's not a micromanaged guy. He's a guy that wants to promote his assistants to be head coaches. He lets them talk, and so they'll if they got something to say to the whole team, they speak. So he's not that kind of guy. I know I've coached with some of those guys that, it's all about me, it's just the one guy. Jim ain't like that. I wasn't like that. You share the wealth, let your assistants, if you want your assistants to get credibility from the team, then let them talk every now and then to the team.
Fair enough. Good stuff. All right, let's see, when it comes down feedback wise, Scott likes how fired up you are. Antoine talking about 5 stars, that how they don't matter. Richard's ready to go. Scott is asking a question out of hand. Scar, how about a surprise starter for the season? You got a surprise starter in the game for the opener?
Oh man, we've been. We heard a lot about this linebacker Hood. Is that Hood? What's his name?
Jaden Hood. Yes.
Yeah, we've heard him. I don't think he's going to take over for anybody there. We don't know what's that corner position. I don't know if Amarian's banged up, but I don't know. We're going to find out. And I think that a lot of those positions will not be solidified until we get into like 3 games. I think he's going to really, really let a lot of guys play. Hopefully we can hammer these people and you can really give a lot of guys reps and make a good decision after 3 non-conference games.
Yeah, it would be tough to say it would be a surprise because I'm not sure that we are going to be surprised by anything. And I don't know, is AJ Barner, if he was
Denny, that's a guy. People might think that's a surprise. I mean, you brought Big Hinton in, you brought the Henderson kid in. Maybe Barnhart held him off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That could be that. Some people might consider that a surprise to hold those two guys off who were big time recruits and the captain at Arizona State. Trente Jones might be. You know, if you know what, Trente Jones, that might be my guy at right tackle. Who, you know, we heard he was having a good, doing pretty good and having a good fall. He might be the guy to come out on top and you know, because he did some good. He started last year. Game 1, he was our starter last year. Remember?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see a 2 to even a 3 tight end look, you know, to start the game. You know, being the starter is important for the players. You want to have that on the resume. So I do think Colston Loveland will be out there. He's one of the most important players. But I also could see, in terms of Barnhart on that left tackle, I could see him starting. He's had the best camp so far, according to Harbaugh. Barner at tight end, I could also see out there, which might be a little bit of a surprise. I keep hearing the name of it's a younger 2 guys out of freshmen, and I don't think they're going to start, but I think don't be surprised of Brandon Hillman, who flipped from Notre Dame and went to Michigan. I hear the players mention B. Hill a lot, and I also hear the name DJ Waller get mentioned an awful lot by these players when they're just up there talking about, you know, hey, what do you think of the freshmen? What do you think? I've heard Waller's name and I've heard Hillman. Now, you know, Jair Hill, who I like so much in the spring game, and Cam Calhoun as corners, you know that they're going to be out there, and you do hear, but Hillman and Waller as surprises, I think, if you're looking, if you're looking to be surprised about guys that are getting in there. But those are good questions. We'll see. That's part of the excitement.
Hey, these guys are being evaluated. You know, some guys might stand right now. There might be a depth chart that looks a certain way. That thing can change in 10 days from now. You know, so you don't know. I just know as a coach that depth chart is a constantly changing, evolving thing, man, based on practices and scrimmages, and you know it is what it is.
There you go. Wolverine fan too liked Hillman's senior tape. All right, speaking of tape, let's watch some tape, Scar, if you're ready for that.
Yeah, let's
do it.
Let's go over here. All right, we up and running?
Yes, we are.
Okay, I just got about eight plays. Denny, this is why we need 6, not 3. Okay. And we have done a better job as an offensive football team. I got Scooney circled here. Okay. I got him circled because I want to show you why we got to have. Now, listen, you got a big tackle here. Okay. So defenses are going to line up, and Michigan was smart. They ran away from the tackle here, but I want you to watch what Scooney does to this kid. Okay. And now, are we going to get that from Barner? Are we going to get that from Loveland? This is the stuff I'm looking at game 1. Look what he does to this kid. He puts him in the end zone. And, you know, and we get some good. But again, here's number 2 running hard in here. We know we know what he does. But I'm really going to be looking at tight ends and can they block and just being great in red zone. We got to hammer this ECU team. So that's that. Bunch of guys blocking. Very good.
From the sound of things, Barner, it looks like he could be another Schoonmaker in the run game. And I know Max Bredesen kept talking about, the fullback position and how much he embraces it and how much he loves to block. And I know that's kind of music to guys like your ears. All right, Scar, go ahead.
There was that touchdown. We talked about that a couple weeks ago, but we know Donovan, an empty set. Okay, Danny, this is why I want to talk about scouting and personnel and adjustments. I just talked about all that stuff, right? Scouting, this is what smart defenses do. Smart defenses know that wherever number 84 was for Michigan, that's probably where they're running because they're not throwing to this dude. And they also know that this freshman tight end over here, 18, they ain't running to him because they know he's a freshman. He's 235 pounds. He ain't been in the weight room long enough. They ain't running the ball to him. So what does Greg Schiano does? What does Greg Schiano do? Look at this defense, okay? Look at this defense. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.5. Okay, he's got 6.5 on this side of the line of scrimmage. This guy's right over the center. On this side, he's got 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now obviously they just got an extra tight end over here, but this defense is not balanced. This defense is saying this guy here can't block. Okay, you ain't running to him. You're running to this guy. So he's got extra guys over here. Now they stuffed this play. This play should have been extra defense to 84, no run threat. Anyway, only 2 is All-American. This is why 2 is an All-American. So anyway, they should have stuffed this play. Okay, they got it stopped in the backfield, and Corum just finds a way to get it done. But my point is, they adjusted their defense based on our personnel, that they know what 84 can do and they know what 18 can't do. Okay, and this should have been a negative play. Our players just this didn't have much to do with coaching. It had to do with Corum making a play there. Any questions about that play, Denny?
No, I like it. It was a good breakdown.
People got to understand sometimes why a play works and doesn't work. It's about, the coach did a great job adjusting. His players just didn't make the play. Here's us getting a pressure with 4. Oki was really good at pass rush. I think he was very average at best playing the run. It's one thing the kid could do. So we got to get pressure with 4. Here's Oki coming off the edge. Big Morris coming underneath. So we get him, you just get him moving a little bit too quick, throwing it maybe a little sooner than he wanted, and we get the interception here. And this is Barrett, and this is great stuff on defense to score. We practice this. We celebrate as a team, and I wanted to show that clip real quick. Here's
nice throw.
Denny, where am I at here? Again, short yardage stuff. Look at the movement. Look at how we're moving. These are young guys last year. Atterbury, they moved to defense there. So again, finding a way to get in. We'll get to the next play here in a second. Okay, Denny, this is stuff I like to see from our offense. Okay, route scheme creates confusion. Again, this formation here, I kind of hated defending it. It's more of a run formation, tight trips, we used to call it. You got 3 guys in here tight. I always considered it more of a run threat formation, but here we are 1st and goal on the 9-yard line, and we're throwing the ball. But we're doing some things, and it creates confusion. Who's covering who? If they release, So anyway, they're confused. They're screwed up. The guy's uncovered. Okay, you can talk about all the great JJ and great receiver, but Ronnie Bell is not covered. This is a mental breakdown. Okay, and some of this stuff is our scheme led to some of this confusion. Are we a team that prior to this we were running the hell out of it, and maybe that's what they were anticipating? But I give credit to coaches here, and again, this is the kind of defense you want to go against, right? They're making mental mistakes. They don't have guys where they're supposed to be. Scar just got done talking about what we don't, what kind of defenses we don't want to face. I want to go against that kind of Nebraska defense. Any thoughts on that, Denny?
Yeah, it's one of those things to remember. Sometimes when you see a play, plays aren't called in a vacuum. When you sometimes have an idea of what you're doing to try to set something up. That's one of those things to remember. It's one of those things as we're watching, you're like, why are they running into the line here? Well, sometimes it's to set something up.
That's right. And maybe we saw something, or that they like to blitz in that formation. Our coach. Yeah. So a lot of coaching going on when plays are successful.
Scar, let me ask you this. Then you touched on, I don't know if it was last week or the week before, but it was one, I think it was Zach Zinner came out and said, I want to put 10 offensive linemen out there, and that's the kind of formation I want. You said that you might not be able to do that because of the numbers. Could Michigan send 10 offensive linemen out there with McCarthy, and would it be legal to be able to do that?
You got to put some eligible numbers on them, because you got to have guys in the backfield. You got to have
report as long as they report.
They keep changing that rule, but it's easier to just put eligible numbers on them. You know what I mean? And
they can't do it unless they get a couple of numbers. You can't.
Yeah, you got to have some eligible numbers on guys. All right. Anyway, this is JJ running the ball, and it's a great block here by Hayes. Are we? That's another guy. I talked about our center last week, how great our center Uli was. Are we going to get the same thing from our left tackle? This kid was outstanding, Ryan Hayes, last year. Okay, here he is kicking out. This is the power play we scored against the Buckeyes with. Now here we are against Nebraska. I don't want to run this one. These first 3 games, I don't want to run this play, Danny. We can't have the franchise getting nicked. Nothing. No. I'll tell you what. I'll be honest with you. If I was Jim Harbaugh and I wasn't at the game, I would tell Sharon Moore, if you got this kid running the football, you're fired. I don't want unless for some crazy reason we're in a dogfight in the fourth quarter. I don't want this guy running the football. So that would be and look at Corum blocking there, man. Anyway, Hayes had a heck of a year. Are we going to get that kind of play from him? And again, this is we're going to see Loveland blocking a lot better. He's got the effort. Loveland will block. You give you the effort. He just doesn't have the butt back that as much strength and size that he needed as a freshman. But I don't want JJ running the ball, Danny.
I'm with you. I don't think.
Okay, here's old school. I want to see this stuff. We're the only team in the Big Ten now running this stuff still. Here we got 3 tight ends. This is the stuff I like seeing. Okay, here we go. Again, this against Illinois. 3 tight ends, and actually 4 because Bredesen's in here at fullback. And this, look what we do to Illinois. This is line of scrimmage, 3rd and goal. Look what we're pushing that line. That was a good defensive line. We want to be great in this type of stuff again, too. And this is why I'm glad we have this kind of offensive package in. We're launching these dudes into the golf course, and Denny, Stadium Boulevard.
Look like the Philadelphia Eagles up there.
That's right. Okay, why not? This is, I looked at this play, this against Illinois. We're not a real big screen team. I hated defending it. I hated as a defensive coach defending screen, especially people that have a pass game. They know what the hell they're doing with it. But we don't run a ton of screen, and I wonder why they don't want to. I know you got to set it up with some straight drop back if you're going to do it, but we get them confused there, Denny. We got nothing out there. This is great scheming here because we bring a guy in motion, and now I guess they're in man, and this kid had we get the guy that had Corum blocked. And you want to see that again? I just thought I just like seeing great scheming by coaches, man. I like seeing great scheming, and I'd like to see more screen this year. Put them in motion, get them confused. We get the linebacker blocked. Now we're off and running. Great call. Did we know they were going to be in man defense? And it was just really executed well.
Scar, can I give you a guess on why I think they don't throw as many slants or screens?
Well, slant, we run a lot of slant. That's a different play, Danny. Why don't you think we run a lot of screen?
Well, one of your former teammates, John Wengler, told me that the toughest pass for a young quarterback to throw is the screen because you have to put touch on it. And he says it takes a little bit of time. And so I could see – like if they're, Matt Stafford, when he was good with everything, got the playbook right, but it took him a couple of years in the pros before, if you watch him, you go back and watch some of those early tapes, he had a tough time because he had such a fastball of just being able to, throw that little 4-yard pass. Sometimes a little bit of a touch on it. It was difficult for him to throw.
Yeah. You got to, if you're going to drop straight back and run a screen, you have to do some straight drop back passing. We don't do a ton of that. We do a lot of RPO stuff. Anyway, getting back to Ryan Hayes. Here's the superstar kid from Ohio State. Look at 76 here. He's the star of this play. So JJ can get outside the pocket. The announcer doesn't call off Ryan Hayes, but old Scar is here. He pins this guy in. He pins this kid in. That's now we're off and running. JJ can get outside the pocket. He can do whatever the hell he wants to do now. Yeah, Joe Klatt doesn't see that. He calling out JJ and all the superstars. But Scar saw it. Okay, here we go. This kid's back. Harrell is back. Great play, 4th and 2. This is scouting. This is discipline. This kid understands down and distance. Okay, now if I'm playing out edge here now, and I played this position, if I'm playing here and I got the responsibility he has, and I know this is a long 2 yards. This is not short. Okay, you got to understand down and distance. This is not fourth in a foot. So the kid is smart here, man. He understood it. It's a good long 2 yards, and he's smart enough to get off. He's got this guy in coverage, and he played it. You know, he didn't overplay the run. So those things it's not by accident. The kid, you know, he was coached up. He understood down and distance. And you're constantly working on them things with your players. Again, this is here we go with the defensive coordinator from Ohio State. You know, he's a high-risk guy. He's a high-risk guy. He's bringing dudes. He's bringing a bunch of guys. He's got this kid out here by himself. Play of the game. As far as I'm concerned, Danny, this was the play of the game against the Buckeyes because we were down at this time 10-3. And this changed everything, man.
It did.
Changed everything. This was the play of the game. It changed the sideline, changed the momentum. The Buckeyes, the fans, everything was changing now. You know, and it's JJ. I think this was JJ's best play of the game too. He's getting this pressure. He's backpedaling. He throws it, but this is what he got. This is what this guy does. See, this is another reason we're going to be so much better against this team this year, against the Buckeyes, is we now know what the hell he's going to do against us. You know, a lot of stuff, you know, even though we saw what he did against other people, you know, we'll have a better idea this year of preparing for, you know. Anyway, thanks to our friends at Quick Cut for the great tool we're using this year. And Danny, that's all I got there.
Quick Cut. Thanks to those guys.
Yeah, so we got some good stuff, and but you know, Danny, I went over offense last year, and I looked at my notes. I don't know how I missed it, but offense's execution is so. Somehow I didn't mention. I had it with my notes, but I didn't mention it. Execution is like everything, man. It's like I went against one team that ran one formation the whole game, Danny. One formation the whole game. Okay. And they knew their blocking rules inside out. You could put up 10 different defenses against their kids. Every time you could change your defense, and they knew how to block it. So that's what I think Michigan does a pretty good job with offensively is we'll see different fronts and we'll block it. And then they'll shift right before the snap and we block it. Or they slant right before the snap and we block it. You know what I mean? That's what you want from your offensive. You want to be able to execute and block everything that the defense does. Even if you might be outmanned, I just think that we do a real good job, and it's so important that you block the right guy. Anyway, next week I'm going to have some East Carolina film, and you'll see they're going to sling it around, Danny. They'll, you know, like I said, they're like defending Maryland. Okay, they're like defending Maryland. He's going to run his quarterback. They're going to look at that TCU film, and they're going to run the hell out of their quarterback against us. I guarantee it. I guarantee you, he's going to run his quarterback against Michigan, and those makes that spread tough to defend.
I feel sorry for their quarterback. You know, it reminds me, they used to play a commercial of, it was old Vince Lombardi tape, and he was at the chalkboard. And you remember that one, Scar? He would have the chalk, and it said, "We're going to get a seal here, and we're going to get a seal there." And they played
that's execution. Denny, yeah, that's exactly my point. Lombardi ran that Packer sweep. He didn't care what defense you were lined up when they ran it. They could have run it in their sleep. That's a great point, that play, because it didn't matter what defense they were in. The players knew what their adjustments were. Okay, if he's lined up here, I do this. If he's over here, I do that. You know, let me get back to Coach DiNardo real quick. Coach DiNardo said that the offensive coordinator's got the toughest job in college football. I totally disagree with that because I don't see why it's any different than the defensive coordinator. I mean, I wouldn't put it, but both of their jobs are very, very difficult. I would not say because the defensive guy has to adjust to what the offensive guy's doing. So I don't see where coach is saying that job is tougher.
He said the offense is tougher, offensive coordinator.
He said that calling plays is the toughest job as a college, is an offensive coordinator's toughest. That's the toughest challenge. And my answer would be, why not the defensive coordinator? I got to adjust to what the hell you're doing. If you're hammering me and you're fooling me and you're scheming me, then I'm an idiot. You know what I mean? Then that's the defensive coach. So I would not put one side more important than the other. They both got to be good. And Danny, I saw one other thing that kind of bugged me. They had some defensive player of the year listing, one of these outlets, one of these media picks, and they did not have Jenkins on that thing at all. No Michigan guys were on it. Did you see that list? I think it was, I'm not sure who the heck it was, CBS or one of them. I think Jenkins is our best at his position, defensive football. That's my guy. There, we have a lot of really good players, but Jenkins is the best at his position on the Michigan's defense, in my opinion.
Well, if somebody sent me something and I had to pick offensive player of the year in the Big Ten, and for defensive player of the year, I picked Jenkins. So, it's just real dark horse surprise, but, there he is. Scar, you've got to do something that you always tell me, to do. Who's they? Who are they talking about?
That's right. Well, I'm part of they now. I'm the media now because both.
But even sometimes it's ESPN or it's Fox.
Yeah, one of them clowns, man. They don't know.
You look and you're like, I don't know who this guy is.
I don't know who they were. Then they're clowns, man.
Sometimes
over here's wisdom. Guys that understand it. They don't know what the hell they're talking about because you don't got no Michigan guys on your defensive player of the year. Are you kidding me? We got
there's guys that have platforms that they must, like the guy at Fox, like, wow, this guy gets like 1 million hits. Well, RJ Young doesn't know anything about football. What I think he does is he takes a dartboard and he just says, this is what I'm going to put up on the graphics, and he just starts throwing stuff up there. And then he puts it out. And everybody's like, this guy's a complete idiot. And then, but his boss is like, man, you're generating a lot of traffic. And he's like, yeah, but 90% of it is you getting ratioed. So I don't know.
What? Next time I come on here, I'm going to have a name. I'll have a name.
Yeah, let's break him down. Well, look at his bio. What does he know about football? Guy, went to Michigan State and majored in horticulture, and he's out there, talking about like, I'm not going to put any Michigan guys in this defense. He's probably biased. He doesn't know anything about football.
Yeah,
sometimes
okay.
Just put those.
I got to settle down over here. All I know is I like what we got a lot of really, really good players on our defense. And Jenkins has been doing it for 3 years now. So, yeah,
you talked about him last year. You isolated him more than once. We were watching some film there, and Mazi was great. But the thing about Jenkins is he was really good. And you showed this is from watching the tape so much with you last year, Scar. He'll hold guys up at the line, and when they're coming out, it's almost like he's playing a little bit of possum with him. He kind of lets the guy, and then he's really good at getting off blocks and being able to, even if it's his arm that he throws out there, being able to put that part of that run wall and being able to stop defenders. I'm with
Benny,
you.
Our defense starts with those two inside guys. It starts with them, Graham and Jenkins this year. Last year it was Mazi and Jenkins. That's where our defense starts. If we're weak there, we're done. We got problems. We got to protect our linebackers. We got to hold the line of scrimmage. And like I said, I knew game one when Mike McDonald took over. I knew the first game that it was going to be a different deal for our defense because I saw what we had it inside there. Speaking of Mazi and our Michigan guys.
Yeah.
Denny, it's real nice. I put on some preseason. I put on the Saints playing San Diego. I got Hinton out there playing for I got Carlo Kemp playing for San Diego, going against big Chuck Faleaga and Caesar was out there. Anyway, it's nice to turn on pro football. And this is all a reflection of our leader, who Coach Harbaugh, bringing in talent, bringing in players, getting them coached up, and they're playing pro. You got a hell of a lot more, a lot of guys playing pro football, and that all gets back to that. It all gets back to leadership.
It's Scar. Just listening to you talk about what's happening right now all summer long. You're talking about, well, this is going to happen. Now you're talking about you're going to a high school game. This is what you want to see in the opener. This is what you're watching in exhibition football. I mean, that is what it's about. We're ready to go and get excited actually to watch these games. So, and it's all out the window. As soon as September 2nd hits, all the stuff, you just throw it all over there. And now we're dealing with the 2023 season, and let's go.
That's right. It's these guys want to get the game week and get. They don't want to keep hitting Michigan guys.
No,
They want to hit some purple, man. Bring the whatever the hell they are, the ECU, whatever they are.
Pirates.
The Pirates.
Let's get those Pirates.
Bring them in. Let's go. Let's get going. Let's
get overboard. Let's
right.
send them down to Davy Jones's locker. Let's go.
They're getting ready to walk the plank, Denny. They're getting ready to walk the plank.
Whatever it is, when they tie that rope up and throw them down where they go underneath the ship back in the old days. Put them on. Give them one of those. Give them that treatment.
Blue skies over Ann Arbor.
That's it. Scar, great job. Can't win next week. If it was possible for you to be more enthusiastic than you were today, next week, that's what the expectation is.
Benny, I think my body, it just naturally, the juices start flowing when we get into late August, because I've been doing this stuff for, it's been in my life for 40 some years. It's naturally, you get a little, you're getting ready, man. So we're all getting ready.
Yeah, a little bit cooler in the morning. And I can tell you today, it's been cooler a couple of times. You feel it. I was walking at 7:30 this morning, and I looked up, and the leaves were out of this one tree. And I was like, man, that tree's getting started early. Those leaves coming down. I was ready.
All right, Denny, we're ready to roll. Go Blue.
There he is, Jim Scarcelli. We'll talk with him next week. Thanks for everybody for watching. Thanks for those 5-star reviews and all the comments on the podcast. Take care. Hit those thumbs up button, and we'll talk with you on